it's unreal. That's not a surprise, but it really gets you when people come to help.
Rising from the rubble, a deadly tornado outbreak leaves its mark on Ohio, but communities across the state say we will rebuild. And that's the story coming out of these neighborhoods. It's people helping people.
Right now, 6 tornadoes have been confirmed, some with winds as high as 140 miles an hour. We sent our team out to find the stories that are happening there. Valencia Wicker and Brittany Bailey found people banding together in recovery.
Kevin Landers shows us a family that lost everything, and Stephanie Stanovich has a look at people who say they got no warning.
Well, Tracy, we have spent the last few hours going neighborhood to neighborhood looking at the damage left behind, and much of what we've seen is what I'm going to show you right now. Buildings that look like this, roofs that are now gone, trees that are down, even water that's high up. But we also see scenes like this. This is a telephone pole that was somehow the wind blew it and it jammed under this car. Thankfully, we're told no one was in this car at the time when all of this happened. But here's the miracle in all of this. The miracle is that no one lost their life here in this complex. And it's that miracle that's giving people the hope and the perseverance they need to push forward. The damage left behind.
They pushed the refrigerator back.
Too massive to comprehend. Tana Foley is one of hundreds of others who lost everything in last night's tornado. The storm wiped out large parts of Dayton near Harrison Township and Trotwood neighborhoods. But thankfully, the community didn't leave victims to face the devastation alone.
My pastor had a U-Haul truck here. We were loading up what I could. They coming back. They're even letting me use the storage unit down at the church for as long as I need to until I find a home.
Family, friends, even strangers rallied around her and her neighbors.
Thank you, Miss Clark.
You're welcome. Some bringing food or drinks while others helped clean and pack up what was salvageable.
We had a KKK rally here. And then to know that we have all nationalities up here, everyone pitched in to help each other. People who were in the service came in uniform. They were helping us load things. We just pulled together like any community should. No matter what your race, creed, or color is, you should just know when it's time to unite, we did that.
Came up and seen this.
This is what is left of his home here on Jill Avenue. The walls are gone, the ceiling caved in right over the bed where he and his wife Lori could have been sleeping.
My wife and I, our faith, friends, family, our community here, that's what keep digging us along, and we'll get through this thing.
Already they are getting through, gathering up what they can salvage and planning to rebuild with plenty of helpers already by their side.
Oh, it's unreal. That's not a surprise, but it really gets you when people come to help. You know, my wife and I, we've gave help and stuff over the years, but it's humbling and not a surprise on this community.
A sea of support after a dark day in Dayton. 9 lives taken by gun violence. Stories of mothers, fathers, friends swept away in a senseless tragedy.
It's hard. This is my neighborhood, this is my community.
Those who knew them, those who loved them, will no longer hold them tight. And we can only wonder why. Tonight, Central Ohio stands with Dayton as our fellow Ohioans heal and we learn what led to this tragedy.
It's a 911 call we're used to hearing from other corners of the world, but this morning that call was made just an hour's drive to our west. It's the Dayton community in shock after yet another mass shooting. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Yolanda Harris. Now, we've been bringing you ongoing coverage of the tragedy since early this morning. And now we want to take you to Dayton. Jerry Revish is there live in Dayton almost 24 hours after the gunfire. Jerry?
Well, Yolanda, a short time ago, a touching, emotional vigil was held here right on the street.
Amazing grace.
They packed in to comfort one another, to grieve the lives lost here not 24 hours ago. 9 doves represented those killed, 1 celebrated the survivors. There were plenty of tears, hugs, and flowers.
This is a place where people come when they're in love and looking for love.
They chanted, demanding action from our state's highest leader as they stood together to proclaim they are Dayton strong.
Unfortunately, I need to wear it today again because we have to be strong again. You know, we were strong with the tornadoes. We were strong when the KKK decided to come here and infest our city. And we stood up against it, and we'll stand up against this.
I sat on the curb with Jamie Hinson, one of the patrons in Ned Pepper's, when shots rang out, still numb from all she experienced.
I just heard people screaming, they're shooting. I got pushed to the ground and people were laying on top of me. And then when the gunshot stopped, I got pulled up and we tried to get to the back.
But she felt compelled to come back to East 5th Street without any answers, but a definite point of view on yet another mass shooting in our country.
What do you think it's going to take to fix this situation with these guns?
I think everybody needs to stop blaming everyone else and everybody needs to work together and solve our problems. It doesn't need to be a Republican or Democrat thing. We all need to worry about the people who lost their lives and the people who are affected by these things and stop making it about who's right and who's wrong.
We don't know the why, we don't know the what's, any of those questions, but I do know that there's a mom and dad down there that are really hurting.
The chief has played dual roles, providing information to reporters and trying to console the parents of suspect Connor Betts. Couple that with the news of the fact that Connor's sister Megan is among the dead.
So they're just asking for continued privacy and patience as they move forward with this horrific event.
Betts, a local college student, earned a new title Sunday, suspected mass shooter. But that is not how Brad Howard described him.
If you're expecting me to slander or talk down on him in any way, then you've got the absolute wrong guy. I'm not going to do that right now.
You can find profiles of the lives lost and the investigation right now on our website. Just go to 10tv.com/Dayton.
You want to believe it's just a bad dream and that it's not true.
We are all hurting. That's what family members of Mount Carmel patients are saying after learning their loved ones received potentially fatal doses of fentanyl. Thanks for joining us for the news at 5:30. I'm Scott Light.
I'm Tracy Townsend. It's been exactly 1 month since 10 Investigates broke the news of the scandal inside Mount Carmel.
And tonight, for the first time, a group of Mount Carmel families is sitting down to talk about their struggles and questions with us. Struggles and questions that still plague them. Here's 10 Investigates' Bennett Haverly.
We're all hurting.
We're all horrified.
They are all suing or considering suing Mount Carmel Hospital, its former Dr. William Husel, and its caregivers, alleging that Dr. Husel ordered grossly inappropriate and excessive amounts of pain medications to be given to their loved ones, hastening their deaths. Their attorneys also blame the hospital's lack of internal safeguards and its caregivers for failing to stop it.
We've lost the trust. The trust is just not there anymore.
Shock.
Yeah.
Many of them lost their loved ones months, even years ago, to what they thought were natural causes. But many of those beliefs changed this past Christmas when the hospital started calling them.
All they said was that your father was given an overdose of pain medication.
Lisa Coleman's father, Jim Allen, died on May 28, 2018. His death certificate shows the immediate cause was septic shock. But his medical records show he was given 1,000 micrograms of fentanyl.
It's horrifying. It's one thing to lose a parent or a loved one, but then to find out that that happened, it's unfair. It's unfair for all of us to have to relive this.
Lisa and her brother James Allen Jr. describe a short hospital stay for their father. They recall meeting Dr. Husel, discussing removing their father Jim's ventilator, and this.
He said, I can promise you that he will not suffer and he'll go quickly.
Jim is identified as patient number 18 in these records from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. State health inspectors looking into what went wrong noted in their report that Dr. Husel used an override to gain access to the hospital's medication dispensing machine. It happened in Jim's case and in many others. In fact, inspectors noted overrides were used to gain access to drugs in 24 of the 27 patient cases reviewed, including Joanne Belisari, who died 3 years before Jim in May of 2015. Her brother Albert says his sister was an auxiliary nun who gave her life to helping others.
You don't expect a Catholic hospital to not give someone a dignity of death, some dignity in their dying. Giving fentanyl is not, to me, you do that to people on death row.
The families need to know that, we could have prevented him from having those privileges and being on that floor, on that unit.
The debate is not whether Dr. Husel was a qualified physician. The debate is whether he was qualified to specifically work in Mount Carmel's critical care unit. And our source says it all comes down to this document. Husel met just 2 of the 4 requirements. His own records sent to the state medical board show that while he was a DO and completed a fellowship in critical care, his residency was in anesthesiology, not internal medicine.
We interrupt programming for breaking news right now. The doctor accused of giving patients lethal doses of painkillers has just turned himself in. Dr. William Husel is facing 25 counts of murder. This comes after a grand jury indicted him.
To the top story many of you read on the 10TV app about a former Mount Carmel doctor surrendering to police.
Dr. William Husel pleaded not guilty to 25 charges of murder.
First, we go to Kevin Landers, who's been in the courtroom learning what's next for Dr. Husel.
Husel's attorney says there's no way his client intended to kill his patients, which is what prosecutors will have to prove to convict Husel of murder.
They were going to die, whether Dr. Husel was on or whether another doctor was on.
Many of these patients were on what they call a do not resuscitate order, but that still does not authorize the administration of fatal doses of fentanyl.
10TV reporter Brittany Bailey was the only reporter there when he took his first steps to freedom.
Dr. Husel, do you have any answers as to why?
No comment.
Is it fair that you're walking out of jail today?
No comment again. Sorry.
Do you have anything you can say to the dozens of families who are hurting right now?
I'm going to have no comment for all your questions. You'll have to talk to my lawyer.
It turns out his lawyer was nowhere to be found, so we did an entire loop around the block with William Husel. Do you plan to maintain your not guilty pleas?
Yes.
Do you feel you are not guilty?
Yes.
We went back into the courthouse through security and back outside again. Dr. Husel said that when you got here, he said his attorney can speak for him.
Nope, no comment. Thank you.
Anything you can say to the dozens of families who are hurting right now?
No.
Any explanation you can give on behalf of the doctor?
Not right now.
When you say not right now, when will that be?
Well, I imagine there's going to be a trial.
We've decided to consolidate most of our investigative reporting into one comprehensive location, one website at deadlydosage.com. There you'll find our docu-series where we will walk you through how we broke the story, what documents we obtained, and how we unearthed other details about how we got to this point in the scandal where 35 patients have died as part of a tragedy that unfolded inside this hospital system.
The big story tonight at 5 has to do with one of our own. 10TV Chief Meteorologist Mike Davis was arrested today and is now facing a child pornography charge.
And while the news is difficult for us and you, we are covering this arrest and the accusations like we would any other story, with fairness and with journalistic integrity.
We want you to know that we are now and will continue to do our due diligence on this story no matter what.
Tracy and Jerry, investigators with the Franklin County Sheriff's Department said during an afternoon news conference today that the amount of child pornography images was significant. We have 3 members of law enforcement, though, telling us that the case involves thousands of images and that they date back years. This video shows meteorologist Mike Davis being booked into the Franklin County Jail on a charge of pandering sexually oriented material involving a minor.
So tomorrow morning,
the video sits in stark contrast from the images most people associate with Davis as a long-standing member of 10TV's weather department.
You know, these are sensitive cases, and so obviously when we see somebody of that stature in the community who's as well known as Mike is, you know, we treat these cases carefully. We know the impact it's going to have in the community, and people are shocked. But it's a reminder that these kinds of cases really span across all professions.
I'm not allowed to talk about it, but thanks. I appreciate it.
As he left jail, meteorologist Mike Davis spoke sparingly to reporters. We tried to ask him what so many are wondering.
I really am not allowed to make any comment, but thanks, guys. Sorry about that.
There's so many people asking for an explanation, Mike. I mean, is there anything?
I just can't say any more, Bennett. I appreciate it, but thanks.
A bail bondsman paid $2,500 to get Davis out of jail Friday, just a few hours after he made his first court appearance on a charge of pandering sexually oriented material involving a minor. Members of the Internet Crimes Task Force arrested Davis Thursday after serving a search warrant at his home. They then came to WBNS TV, where they seized his personal laptop and 4 thumb drives from his bag.
Are you able to say if the downloads happen all at home, on their personal? Were they at work? Was it both?
Nothing ever happened at work.
Nothing ever happened at work?
As we walked with Davis outside jail, the longtime weatherman said he couldn't say much, but continued to speak.
This is absolutely the worst part about the media, guys.
Yeah.
The predatory part.
But you put yourself in this position, right? So we got to just do our job.
Authorities allege Davis both sent and received images of children being exploited. I asked him if any of the children were local or those he knew. He said this.
Never interacted with anyone.
High-speed chases make for great TV, but tragic real-life consequences. Tonight, there are questions about the safety of the actions taken by a local sheriff's office.
The people raising these questions are fellow law enforcement officers. 10TV News reporter Glenn McIntyre investigates.
You're looking at Franklin County Sheriff's Office cruiser camera video from January 25th. A deputy in pursuit of a driver who won't stop. Speeds climb into the triple digits, 105 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone, then 108 miles per hour. The chase blows through traffic lights and intersections, weaving in and out of oncoming traffic. As the school bus approaches, the deputy backs off, only to be rammed by an OBETS officer also in pursuit. Franklin County Sheriff Dallas Baldwin hasn't seen the video, but we recapped it for him.
Just those details and this on its face, does that concern you or raise any red flags for you?
Every pursuit raises red flags. Every one you want to go back and review and make sure that we did things the right way. So just that on its face alone, no more concern than all of them. They all raise concern.
So what began this triple-digit speed pursuit in and out of morning traffic? A suspected stolen vehicle.
To a layperson, it looked incredibly dangerous.
It looks, what you're describing sounds about like every pursuit you see recorded on TV. Almost every one are like that. That's why pursuits are they're so dangerous, and why you want to have good oversight, because the driver obeys no rules. He goes wherever he has an opening.
Since they're so dangerous, why do it for a stolen car?
You don't do it for a stolen car, you do it to figure out why the person ran.
According to their policy, Columbus police would not have chased this driver. A third officer said, if you're chasing a bunch of cars that don't need chased, they're going to get somebody killed.
Copy and getting multiple paramedics now.
Columbus police body camera video shows the frantic moments just after a pursuit and crash in December. A smashed car against a home on James Road. Officers worked desperately to rescue 2 toddlers from the back seat.
Hold on, sweetie, I'm coming. I'm coming, dear, hold on.
The children would be fine. Their mother and uncle, who was driving the car, both died.
High-ranking Columbus police officers also say one of the reasons they're so concerned about the county's pursuit policy is they believe the county is pursuing more runs inside the city, and they believe the reason is a reality TV show. That part of the story tonight at 11.
room with her saying she did smoke heroin.
Live PD purports to show the reality of law enforcement across America. Since last November, cameras for the popular show have been rolling in Franklin County. It's compelling TV, to be sure, but some say it's changed the way the sheriff's office does its job. And the people raising those concerns are high-ranking Columbus police officers. The worries are detailed in public records and on-background conversations with 10TV. One commander writes, "It is my understanding that deputies are jumping CPD runs around the city, especially when it involved live PD and something fun is occurring. This creates confusion for the public, unwanted media issues, officer safety concerns, and jeopardizes the outcome for victims."
We want to make sure that our actions are totally appropriate. The safety of our personnel out there and the safety of the public's number one. And when that's jeopardized, we'll take action to stop that.
As for concerns about live PD, the two agencies have agreed that if it's a CPD run and the sheriff's office shows up, the cameras will stay in the car.
Hold on, hon.
I just want to kill myself.
All right, well, stop walking. Stop walking.
Talk like that, because we're not here to hurt you, and I don't want to hear you say stuff like that.
Why did y'all come get me? I just want to kill myself.
We ain't trying to mess with you, but we do have to take you back.
This encounter between a teen and two Columbus police officers may be hard to watch, but it is not an isolated incident.
Drop this. Drop this.
It is a recurring scene.
You guys taking her back to Pomegranate?
Yep.
Since 2017, police records show there have been at least 125 incidents of teens going absent without leave from Sequel Pomegranate, a secure, privately owned psychiatric facility for children ages 12 to 17.
No, but I don't want to be here.
You gotta be, listen.
My fourth time.
You gotta be patient.
You gotta understand, too. You have to, none of y'all want to be here.
That's what I was to say. A lot of people don't like. Why do they hate us so much here?
Because they're kids. They're locked down.
Police body camera footage shows the facility and its staffers are aware of these incidents.
I'm not about to move. If I want to leave, then I can go bust the back door and come again.
We know that you know how to get out of here.
Pomegranate houses about 90 children, more than half of which are in the custody of Franklin County Children's Services and are placed here for psychiatric or behavioral treatment. So why are so many of these kids running away?
Would you want to stay locked up in a facility where you didn't feel safe? Would you want to sleep where you felt like somebody could jump in your room at any time and attack you in your sleep?
This former employee, who asked not to be identified, alleges that both teens and staffers have been subjected to repeated acts of violence and sexual abuse. 10 Investigates found records to back it up.
911, where's your emergency?
Our review of more than 400 calls for police service dating back to 2017 found dozens of incidents, including 77 disturbance runs, 36 alleged assaults, and 14 sexual assaults.
I would get calls nightly. He would be screaming and crying on the phone, and he was telling me they was abusing him and they was beating him.
Christina Marshall's son Cameron spent 2 weeks at Sequel Pomegranate in April.
I know this is hard.
During his stay, Cameron says he ended up getting into 5 fights.
The kids were picking on me for no reason, calling me girl and other stuff. And then they got on my nerves, so I fought them.
During one incident, FCCS records show 2 kids entered Cameron's room and attacked him, stomping his head repeatedly. He was diagnosed with a concussion. Christina says she believes a lack of supervision is to blame.
This administration has been vigilant. We have taken your report seriously.
And that's why we did the unannounced visit that was more thorough and more detailed with several staff on site.
Governor DeWine and Chris announced Wednesday that her department, which oversees Sequel Pomegranate, made an unannounced visit there last week and issued a plan of corrective action.
The doctor looked me bold in my eyes, like my 4th night there, and said that if I were to inhale vapor again, I will die.
All week long here at 10 TV, we are clearing the air about vaping. One way Ohio is curbing the use of tobacco products among young people is by raising the legal smoking age from 18 to 21. Now, the law took effect last month, but are retailers following it?
In Chillicothe, records show the biggest violators selling to minors were not the vaping stores, but the gas stations. We sent our 25-year-old assistant into this Sunoco. It received an FDA citation for selling to a minor in May of 2017.
They did not ID me.
You just sold 2 Juul pods. Here's the receipt to someone you didn't check ID. You know you're supposed to check ID?
Just thought she looked overage.
Then we confronted the manager about the training of his employees. He tried to avoid our camera as we attempted to get an answer.
They're all trained, buddy. They got signs everywhere.
You just sold some jewels to someone, you didn't check their ID.
That's on her.
Henry Spiller is the director of the Central Ohio Poison Center. He says the number of calls in recent years has risen from 70 or so to more than 100 so far this year. And almost all the calls are for children under the age of 3 who have ingested some form of an e-cigarette product.
It's about an hour before things get really bad. It depends. I mean, it's progressive because you have to absorb it. It's not 5 seconds. But it's going to happen pretty quickly. You can see things like coma, seizures, cardiac arrhythmia.
Ohio State University research scientist Mariel Brinkman leads a team working to figure out just what users are being exposed to when they vape.
One of the things that the e-cigarette industry likes to say is that people are exposed to lower levels of toxic chemicals when they use e-cigarettes. E-cigarettes also generate a nicotine aerosol, but they do it much differently. And so there are some chemicals that are unique to e-cigarette exposure, and they never talk about those.
It's just too much for the lungs and overwhelms them. You've heard it described as melted butter coating the lungs. Well, the scientists I talk with say it's actually an accumulation of fat globs or molecules that are popping up inside the lungs, overwhelming them and compromising the immune system.
In our response to our findings about the 700% increase in vaping incidents in Ohio schools, Governor Mike DeWine's office sent us a statement saying he hopes the Ohio Department of Education will change its policy to capture specific information when it comes to vaping in schools. The Ohio Department of Education, by the way, tells us they're now considering collecting vaping-specific data from schools. Online right now at 10tv.com, you can find both of those statements. We've also created this interactive map where you can go and click on each ping location and find out how the vaping incidents were laid out in your district. There are also a list of districts that did not provide us with information or said they could not provide us with information because they don't specifically track vaping incidents.
But how do you know if the CO detector in your house is giving you enough warning that something's wrong? As reporter Kevin Landers found out, not all CO alarms are the same.
Tasteless, odorless gas can creep into a home without warning unless you have one of these, a CO detector. In the case of the Ryder family, 50-year-old Gabe, his wife, 49-year-old Jennifer, and their children, 15-year-old Gabe and 13-year-old Grace, investigators say they have no doubt they would be alive today if a CO detector was in their home.
We feel that it would have made a complete difference in the outcome of that incident.
But 10TV has uncovered that not all CO detectors work the same, meaning they don't alarm at the same levels. In fact, those who set the standards for CO alarms can't agree on when this alarm should sound.
It is probably the one moment that makes every person using a cell phone cringe. Your battery is low, or worse yet, just plain old dead.
Sometimes if there's a charging station out at the gate, you know, it's easier to plug into the USB, so I'll do that.
But let's face it, we've all just plugged into a USB somewhere, even if we have that power adapter.
I did somewhere in my bag, I just didn't really bother to get it.
But here's why you should.
So you just think that the phone is charging, but the issue is that you have both power and data on that link. The charging station that has been compromised will send power, so everything appears to be normal. You stay plugged into it, and while the charge is happening, all the current is going, but it comes with a data payload.
That payload is filled with malware, which can then access everything from your photos to passwords. And the risk, he says, is high at any public charging station, from hotels to rental cars to airports.
So this is one way you can protect yourself from hacking, with a power adapter. But cyber experts say if you don't have one of these, there is another option: a USB condom.
That's right. That device on the right is what the industry calls...
It acts truly as what it is, a USB condom.
That's correct. It is a prophylactic device.
Should college athletes be allowed to get endorsed and earn money while in school? Well, it is set to become a reality in California in the year 2023.
But will Ohio follow in that footstep? 10TV's Brian Somerville took the question to the Ohio State University.
On the corner of North High and Lane, opinions go faster than rush hour traffic. All you need is the right question.
Should college athletes get paid?
Of course they should get paid. They're using their names, their likenesses, and their jersey numbers, and all that. Of course they should get paid. Why wouldn't they?
You put yes, right? Yeah. I'm with you.
In Cali, they get paid.
Well, not yet. California Governor Gavin Newsom signed a bill into law Monday that will allow college athletes to hire agents and make money from endorsements. Some people say maybe it's the way to go across the country because athletes,
Yes, because they're working.
are the straw that stirs the NCAA drink, which made $1.1 billion in 2017.
Ready? Step.
This is how the Army greets the morning every morning at 6:30 a.m. at Fort Riley Military Base in Manhattan, Kansas. But this is no ordinary day for members of a unit called the Big Red One. It's tradition at Fort Riley to honor its heroes with an escort from the commander's color guard. On this day, the honoree is former Sergeant Mike Diebold of Zanesville.
As this soldier walked in the valley of the shadow of death, you, Almighty God, were with him, and your presence manifest in his actions.
Diebold is the first person of the 1st Infantry Division to receive the Distinguished Service Cross.
This is our nation's second highest award.
Just below the Medal of Honor.
It is because of heroes like him that America thrives as a free land today.
The ceremony you're watching is unique because most soldiers who receive the honor aren't alive to accept it.
In a blink of an eye, his truck was gone, and all that was left was a fireball, excuse me, of where they once were.
That's Diebold's former squad leader. He recalled the hellish events of September 4th, 2008.
We believe we were in that valley. We believe the gates opened and hell was there, and we fought our way out and said, we told them not today, and we came back.
Diebold and the rest of the 3rd Brigade combat team were in a convoy of 6 Humvees when they began to take on small arms fire. Diebold, driving the 2nd Humvee from the front, pulled off to the side of the road and struck an IED buried in the sand. When we visited him at his home, he showed us what was left of the nearly disintegrated Humvee.
I think about it every day. I think about my friend that was killed in the back, you know, that I didn't get him out of the truck.
Despite burns on 50% of his body, his skin peeling off his face, Diebold saved 4 of his 5 crew members and continued to fire at the Taliban, who had outnumbered the platoon 10-1.
Officers are paying their respects to 2 fallen Westerville police officers who were killed in the line of duty in 2018. 10TV's Lacey Crisp is in Washington, D.C. and has more about how Eric Joring and Tony Morelli's lives will be celebrated. Good evening, Lacey.
The family members of those fallen officers are being escorted in by law enforcement officers from across the country. And that includes family members of Eric Joring and Tony Morelli.
Bagpipes ring out at the National Law Enforcement Memorial as fellow officers, families, and complete strangers pay their respects to those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
Last year was kind of a year that we just came here very somber and didn't participate much. This year is much different for us. We are extremely involved because we want to show how much that we love these two.
Fallen Westerville police officers Eric Joring and Tony Morelli's names have been added to the wall of the thousands of law enforcement officers across the country who have given their lives for our safety. Westerville Police Department's honor guard took the car doors from Tony and Eric's cruisers and placed them at the memorial.
The doors are significant when it comes to officers who were lost their life in the line of duty. These doors are even more significant to us because these are the actual doors that were on their vehicle the day that both Tony and Eric lost their lives.
Eric, Joseph, Joring. Anthony, Pascal, Morelli.
One by one,
Their names were read. 371 fallen officers remembered.
It's a terrible thing. It really is. It's a huge loss for their families and for the community.
The candles, like those fallen, shine bright. The sea of light and blue stand together as they mourn those who are lost, but not forgotten.
Imagine the patience it must take for an 8-year-old to be nose deep in an instruction booklet, knuckle deep in a crate of Lego.
I like to create things a lot.
Imagine the determination for Kellen Chateau, anxious to place that last piece to his unfinished creation. His mother, Sarah, both anxious and determined to remain patient.
You want to be very excited that things have calmed down, but it's also kind of waiting.
She says her family lives life 4 months at a time. They have since Kellen was 8 weeks old, diagnosed with neurofibromatosis type 1, which causes tumors on nerves in the skin and brain. At 18 months, an MRI showed brain tumors behind Kellen's eyes. Since he was 3, he's been on chemo.
This is a lifelong condition we'll have to monitor.
But life, like Lego, has a way of placing the pieces we need when we need them right in front of us. It's even better when those pieces are loaded up and delivered to those who need them out of the blue. Behind Brittany Long's laughter is a story inspired by her 8-year-old son.
To say he ever leaves my thoughts would be a lie.
It's difficult to encompass the life of Braxton Long.
He was so joyful and funny, and he didn't know a stranger. Every single person that he met, he was so genuinely happy to meet them.
That's what everyone saw. A happy, smiling child, even when he beat glioblastoma the first time, then the second time. The third time the brain cancer came back was 2016. By the end of July 2017, he was gone.
We were super close.
While Braxton was dealing with inpatient and chemo appointments, he had an idea. Patients at Nationwide Children's, they need to be remembered. He started a Lego drive. At first, he thought 8 sets would do the trick. Then, 253 sets. In no time at all, 342 showed up at his front door. A selfless idea. One that Braxton's twin sister, Emberly, older by 10 minutes, and don't you forget, appreciates.
I'm just proud of him.
An older sister looking up to her younger brother.
Always having a smile on his face.
When balloons were released following Braxton's funeral, no one would have blamed his family if they wanted to also let go of that selfless idea, a constant reminder of what's lost. But they didn't.
We're well over 5,000 Lego sets to date.
Thank you, guys.
2,500 have been delivered since his passing from all over the country. In fact, they've collected so many. For the last 18 months, they've had to get a storage unit.
Whoa.
Every few months, a few hundred are loaded up.
I think that'll be it.
Taken to Nationwide Children's, where they are loaded up again.
Here you go.
And taken to the patients inside. It's what he would have wanted.
Just to make them not as bored, and just to make them not feel like they're different from everybody else.
Kellen met Braxton in 2016.
What did you like about Braxton?
He was really fun, and I thought he was a good friend to have at the games.
Kellen Shadow, age 5. Braxton Long, age 8.
Both were honored at a Blue Jackets Heroes game. Kellen, also the proud recipient of one of Braxton's donated sets.
It's amazing to think that Braxton's heart was so big, and he thought so much of all the other children that were dealing with similar situations to his own and how he could help them. And having our child be a recipient of that kindness was amazing.
Every piece has its place, and she has found hers, connecting her son's legacy with others while knowing her heart, while knowing her mission will never be complete. In Pickerington, Bryant Somerville, 10 TV News.
An early warning to take cover.
Came out last night, and I mean, the first things I thought of was war zone.
Fell everywhere besides the house. Like, God blessed it.
A message that saved lives.
She kept telling him, you need to go in the basement. Finally, he listened. They went in the basement, and within a matter of seconds, the house was basically gone.
Damage by the light of day shows widespread devastation.
Heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. And these people, where do they go?
As more severe weather takes aim at the Buckeye State.
10 TV News at 6 starts right now.
From Central Ohio's news leader, this is 10 TV News at 6.
Oh, it's unreal. That's not a surprise, but it really gets you when people come to help.
Rising from the rubble, a deadly tornado outbreak leaves its mark on Ohio, but communities across the state say we will rebuild. And that's the story coming out of these neighborhoods. It's people helping people. Thank you for staying with us at 6, everybody. I'm Yolanda Harris.
I'm Tracy Townsend. Jerry is off tonight. Right now, 6 tornadoes have been confirmed, some with winds as high as 140 miles an hour. We sent our team out to find the stories that are happening there. Valencia Wicker and Brittany Bailey found people banding together in recovery.
Kevin Landers shows us a family that lost everything, and Stephanie Stanovich has a look at people who say they got no warning. But as the last round clears, another threat. We're going to begin with Mike Davis, who was here through the night and is now looking at more severe weather. Hopefully nothing like last night, though.
Yeah, it looks like a step down on the severe scale, but still the potential is there for some very strong storms. Off to the north, we have a severe thunderstorm watch that goes until 8 o'clock, which is a little different than a tornado watch, which goes until 2 or 4 in the morning, which is what we dealt with last night. But again, severe thunderstorms are possible in areas just off to our north. That's where they are, and they're lining up kind of similar to the way those tornadoes did. And that was a very rare event to see just tornado after tornado after tornado warning go off across central and southern Ohio, starting in west central Ohio and really progressing all the way through about 2:45 in the morning when the last warning expired. Right now, severe thunderstorm warning in effect for Hardin County. Storms moving to the east at 35 miles an hour with some quarter-sized hail, 60-mile-an-hour winds. Cells also in parts of Wyandotte and Crawford counties. Off the east, it gets intense again as you get past Holmes County. So that line of storms just rolling straight through, generally to the east. The risk is there. It's a slight risk to the north, a marginal risk here in Columbus. So we're in a little bitter situation tonight, and it's muggy and warm yet again, 86 degrees and humid. We'll talk about how much longer this is going to last and also more on the severe threat in the days ahead coming up.
All right, Mike, thank you. Now, these storms came in the dead of night, sending people to their basements before damage like this happened. Neighborhood to neighborhood around Dayton. This is the kind of destruction that can be seen. Local hospital officials say about 50 people were in fact hurt. 10 TV's Valencia Wicker walked those streets and discovered people out finding purpose after the storms. Valencia?
Well, Tracy, we have spent the last few hours going neighborhood to neighborhood looking at the damage left behind. And much of what we've seen is what I'm going to show you right now. Buildings that look like this, roofs that are now gone, trees that are down, even water that's high up. But we also see scenes like this. This is a telephone pole that was somehow the wind blew it and it jammed under this car. Thankfully, we're told no one was in this car at the time when all of this happened. But here's the miracle in all of this. The miracle is that no one lost their life here in this complex. And it's that miracle that's giving people the hope and the perseverance they need to push forward. The damage left behind.
They pushed the refrigerator back.
Too massive to comprehend.
Tana Foley is one of hundreds of others who lost everything in last night's tornado. The storm wiped out large parts of Dayton near Harrison Township and Trotwood neighborhoods. But thankfully, the community didn't leave victims to face the devastation alone.
My pastor had a U-Haul truck here. We were loading up what I could. They coming back. They're even letting me use the storage unit down at the church for as long as I need to until I find a home.
Family, friends, even strangers rallied around her and her neighbors.
Thank you, Miss Clark. You're welcome.
Some bringing food or drinks while others helped clean and pack up what was salvageable.
We had a KKK rally here. And then to know that we have all nationalities up here, everyone pitched in to help each other. People who were in the service came in uniform. They were helping us load things. We just pulled together like any community should. No matter what your race, creed, or color is, you should just know when it's time to unite, we did that.
The cleanup has since died down. A lot of folks have moved out and gone to stay with family or friends. As for the damage left behind, the cars that have been damaged, we do not yet have a timeline on when or how they will all be repaired. In Dayton, Valencia Wicker, 10TV News.
The damage is not hard to find in the town of Salina tonight. Governor DeWine walked streets lined with debris, talking to people who survived the storms.
It's devastating when you see it from the air, and it's devastating when you actually go out and see the damage that's been done to homes. But then when you start talking to people who've lost everything, you really understand what a tornado can do.
Well, 10TV News reporter Brittany Bailey is live in Salina tonight, and she spoke with people who survived the storm. Talk about a wild night, Brittany.
Well, good evening. It certainly was. And we could talk a lot about the damage here in Salina. There is plenty of that, to be sure. You can see it here all around me. But what we also saw today was resilience. A lot of that. Almost every home where we saw damage, we also saw help in the form of neighbors, friends, family, in some cases, even strangers. There is no doubt that Salina will certainly survive this tornado, just as Gerald and Lori Vian did.
One storm, the sirens went off, we had the warnings. We did not waste any time. We went right to the basement, and my wife and I huddled right here.
That is because some memories stick around longer than others. Gerald Vian remembers the November 2017 storm here in Salina that destroyed his brother's home.
I had the heebie-jeebies ever since.
His brother's loss and his wife's advice may have saved him Monday night.
The siren quit sounding, and I thought, well, we're probably okay. And my wife said, we're going to stay here a little bit. And thankfully she did.
Vian says when he stopped hearing the sirens, he started hearing a whistle. Then it was more of a crunch.
We thought we're done on the, our home's probably ruined. My wife was just shaken. I'm obviously in shock or nervous too. Came up and seen this.
This is what is left of his home here on Jill Avenue. The walls are gone, the ceiling caved in right over the bed where he and his wife Lori could have been sleeping.
My wife and I, our faith, friends, family, our community here, that's what keep digging us along, and we'll get through this thing.
Already they are getting through, gathering up what they can salvage and planning to rebuild with plenty of helpers already by their side.
Oh, it's unreal. That's not a surprise, but it really gets you when people come to help. My wife and I, we've gave help and stuff over the years, but it's humbling and not a surprise though in this community.
Well, as you heard there, Gerald and Lori Vian do plan to rebuild on the very spot where their home is, right down there behind me. In the meantime, they do have a place to stay for about a month or so, longer if needed. Now, for folks in this community who do not have a place to stay, the Red Cross did open a shelter in Coldwater at the Eagles Club. So folks who need that can stay there as long as needed. Reporting live in Salina tonight, I'm Brittany Bailey, 10TV News.
Brittany, thank you. Wow, just the power of the storm, but the resilience, as Brittany was talking about,
it really
clearly
is
evident there. Well, our coverage does continue now. We're moving across the state to Pickaway County.
Yeah, we are still waiting on the strength of those tornadoes that blew through Pickaway County. Behind me, this is a pole barn. You can see completely gone. This is the debris from that pole barn here. You know, it's just sad to talk to the homeowners here who have lost their homes and their barns in just a matter of seconds. Nearly everybody we talked to said when the tornado hit, it sounded like a bomb going off. Everything is out of place.
Oh, it just crushed everything.
At John Martin's farm.
You see the woods? That is the opening area where it came through. And then as it came through, it hit both these buildings at the same time.
2 barns, each one 40 by 60, were crushed. One is where his combines are parked. The other housed his collection of antique tractors.
It don't seem real, does it?
It's not the first tornado to hit Martin's farm home.
This is my 3rd time tornado here. We lived here 30 years, and I've been through 3 tornadoes right here.
And how does this one compare?
Worst we've ever been through.
He said he and his wife were in the basement listening to their home rip apart.
And we walked 20 feet to the basement, and it was here. That's how close and how fast it got here.
He says as it approached, it sounded like a freight train, but when it hit, it sounded
like a bomb exploded. And that's when everything went silent.
The debris field is miles long. Homes were crushed, power poles severed, and at this pool, the slide was shredded, the diving board ripped off. Despite the damage, no one here was seriously injured or killed. For people like John Martin, who have a long road of cleanup ahead, he understands how lucky he is.
Metal you can fix, bodies you can't.
Now, to give you an idea of the force of the winds, take a look at this. This is a piece of plywood embedded in the front windshield of this truck. Right now, we're told there are about 300 people still without power here in Pickaway County. Reporting live, Kevin Landers, 10TV News.
Kevin, thank you. What a visual there, that windshield.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so in situations like this, we're always told to look for helpers.
Yeah, and among all that destruction, one Dayton area company was full of helpers. Greek Streets set up a free food truck for people hit by the overnight storms around Dayton. Nice. And they have one message: come on down.
You know, we're praying for them, and you know, if they get thirsty or hungry, just stop on by and we'll take care of you. Everything's free. We all need to stick together and be one.
The food truck will provide gyros and drinks for anyone affected by the tornadoes. And we recently learned that the Ohio Department of Health is working with ODOT to transport 30,000 gallons of bottled water from Columbus to Dayton. So it's just another example when the worst things happen, it brings out the best in people really and just really brings people together as a community.
It really does.
Well, it was certainly a scary night for a lot of people.
Fortunately, though, most people got the warning.
Got all the kids up and went ahead and headed down.
Still ahead, the special trigger one community had to use to make sure the sirens sounded.
Well, the sirens were sounding during last night's severe weather, but people in one community say they never got the warning. Phones were ringing off the hook at Licking County Emergency Management, with people saying the sirens just weren't sounding.
So it turns out workers had to manually trigger the sound. 10TV's Stephanie Stanovich went to Licking County to find out why.
Storms moved through Ohio, making their way to Heath in Licking County.
A lot of rain, a lot of lightning, a lot of thunder.
Many took shelter immediately after a tornado warning was issued.
Got all the kids up and went ahead and headed down.
One man said he got alerts through his phone, but was surprised the sirens didn't go off right away.
There were tornado warnings in Licking County, in the west side of Licking County. This is the east side, so it's moving towards us. So we should have had a tornado siren sound.
He said a while after, they finally went off.
For less than 5 minutes, probably no more than 2 minutes.
Here at the new Emergency Management Center, Director Sean Grady says they did get a lot of calls.
It was a combination of timing, human error.
He says sometimes the alerts aren't triggered because the warnings posted by National Weather are not up for very long.
At this point, once a tornado warning comes into the county, when you're in automatic mode, it automatically triggers. And they send out codes to the impacted sirens.
Grady says sometimes the automatic mode will miss a warning and will not send the codes. And he says that's what happened last night.
One of the dispatchers made the phone call to one of the supervisors to verify. When the supervisor looked at the screen, the warnings, the first 2 warnings had already come off the screen. The third warning had not been posted yet.
After neighbors let them know, they went into fail-safe mode, which means they set sirens off countywide. Grady says many variables can affect sirens from not working properly or not being heard.
And it's impacted by the weather conditions, it's impacted by thunder, lightning, tree coverage, how far away you are, and then once you get inside your house, fans running, ACs running.
Grady says the sirens are solely for if you are outside at a park or just around the house. He says if you are inside, he strongly wants to urge you to stay alert by watching TV or checking your phones. In Licking County, Stephanie Stanovich, 10TV News.
Many of you visiting 10TV.com have been reading about the 6 tornadoes that hit Central Ohio last night. 2 EF3 storms hit near the Dayton area, and that means the winds were at least 136 miles per hour. And you saw the damage it did. We showed you that video.
Just really was amazing. Dopplerton meteorologist Jeff Booth takes us to the area and has more on the track of the storm.
The tornado-producing storm that caused all of that damage in Greene County had actually had warnings on it for a few hours that started when it was tearing across Indiana. It then rolled through the North Dayton area, and it would only be a matter of minutes before the storm that caused this devastating damage here in North Dayton reached a neighborhood in Beaver Creek.
The damage from the air is evident at the Action Sports Center in North Dayton. Debris litters the field. A light pole is snapped at the base. The roof of the complex torn off, revealing the playing fields within. All of this from the storm that moved in from the west under the cover of darkness. In the light of day, Renee Ashcraft surveys the damage the tornado has brought. It cracked her windshield and tore the brick wall of her Beaver Creek condo to the ground.
I was in shock. It made me think of the tornado that went through Xenia, but because I was little then, but it was horrifying.
From there, the twister moved through Lakeview Estates, tearing walls from homes and uprooting trees or snapping them in half. A shower stall hangs precariously from the second floor of a home, hit particularly hard.
It was massive. You could see it when the lightning was going off, and you could just see the big funnel cloud, and it was just ripping everything apart.
The tornado then moved into the Spicer Heights neighborhood, tearing roofs from homes and flattening this garage. Tom Leston lives just across the street. When the local news said it was just around the corner, he headed for a safe spot.
It didn't last but a minute, but we got in the bathroom. I put my back up against the door and was holding the door shut, and you could feel that door just kicking back against me.
After the storms got through with Beaver Creek, they continued to push to the east, eventually hitting northern Fayette and southern Madison counties. Those then continued to work into Pickaway County, and so far we've had at least 2 confirmed tornadoes in the Pickaway County area from the storms that tore through here early on Monday morning. Reporting from the Miami Valley, I'm Doppler 10 meteorologist Jeff Booth. Back to you.
Well, Mike Davis was here throughout the night. He and Jeff Booth on to what, maybe like 3 a.m. And he has a look at just how much damage those winds can do.
Yeah, it would be pretty extreme, especially when it's like an EF3 like we saw in Mercer County and off to the west in Montgomery County as well. We got some video from the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety for our weather special. And you can see that winds like of 80 to 100 miles an hour can just rip the siding right off a building. Now, if you think of that's something, when you take the wind up over 140 miles an hour, which is what we saw to the west, and we've seen the damage it can cause. So again, very, very strong winds last night, a very dangerous situation. And fortunately around here, very rare that we see anything like that. Let's take a look and see what's going on out there tonight. We have a severe thunderstorm watch, not a tornado watch. This goes until 8 o'clock. It could be extended, but this one goes until 8 officially at this moment in areas just to our north. A lot of storms on the radar right now. Live Doppler 10 radar, which we used to keep you informed last night, the only live radar in central Ohio, showing quite a bit of activity to the north. A severe thunderstorm warning over here. One back to the west out of our area as you go back further toward the western border of the state. But the ones in Hardin County and the ones in Hancock County have wound down just a little bit, but still some pretty good cells in and around Kenton, back to east of Lima, coming north of Marion, kind of going through right through central Wyandotte County, right through upper Sandusky. So you folks probably hearing and seeing some thunder and lightning in that area. Heavy rain, that one does have a history of producing at least some small hail. All of these storms are doing what we call training, meaning they're passing over the same area over and over again. So that's why all of these flash flood warnings have been issued as well. Heavy rain certainly a possibility with some storms, especially early this evening. It's hot and it's humid. It's 86 degrees. The relative humidity, even with the high temperature, is 43%. Southwest winds at about 15. To the north, these are rain-cooled temperatures. Low 70s at Findlay, mid-70s at Mansfield, and everybody to the south of there, where you had more sun today, is well into the 80s and humid. The dew point in Columbus is 61, which isn't awful. It's uncomfortable, but not oppressive. And when you hit the 70s, that's where the air is just chock full of moisture. It's very unstable. So when you look at some of these dew points off to the north, there's a lot of moisture in the air, and that's where the storms are more likely to fire. So for the evening, we kind of stay in the 80s through maybe 9 o'clock even, and by 11 o'clock about 75. The rain chance never gets above maybe 30% here through the evening, but pop-ups are possible if one of those ones to the north manages to drift our way. So scattered storms, muggy and warm with a low of 66 degrees. Meanwhile, central part of the country, tornado warnings in Kansas, tornado warnings in parts of Pennsylvania as well, all the way over almost to New Jersey. The severe weather risk is there for tonight. It is there again tomorrow. In fact, for us, it goes up into the slight category, with gusty winds being the main issue. As we look ahead, again, you see the storms kind of brewing but fading overnight. 6 o'clock in the morning, we're looking pretty good. By 11, they're passing us by. Later in the evening, they may fire up a little bit. That model run, I do not think does it justice at all. Meanwhile, 80s for tomorrow, 70s as we head into Thursday. That's the last day of widespread showers and storms. Not forever, but at least for a few days. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, looking and feeling better. Monday and Tuesday, if we could string together 5 dry days, that would be like a record. I'd go play the lottery. Temperatures in the 70s after midweek as well. Showers returning late in the week.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Well, sports took their show on the road tonight.
Indeed. 10 TV's Dom Taberry joins us now from Muirfield. Hi, Dom.
Hey, guys. Beautiful day up here at Muirfield Village. Day 2 of practice. And take a look behind me who has just arrived to the driving range. None other than Tiger Woods, 5-time Memorial champion, 15 majors, and he will play in tomorrow's Pro-Am at 7 in the morning. But Tiger out here, very few patrons here getting some work at the range. One of the other players that were on the range today, Central Ohio's Jason Day. He, of course, is a member here at Muirfield Village, just lives up the road in Westerville. This is always a special week for him, as he will have a lot of family and friends here rooting him on. He's a huge Buckeye fan, and he knows that if he can get something going this week, the support will be off the charts.
To even just do it in my backyard, and obviously with Jack, here, and this is his tournament, and how much he's meant to the game. It'd be nice to be able to walk up, take my hat off, and shake his hand.
Keep it here on 10 TV for all your Memorial Tournament needs. We'll have daily coverage from Muirfield Village, including nightly specials starting Wednesday night at 11:35. Then Sunday at 1:30 in the afternoon, we'll have an hour special heading to final round coverage right here on 10 TV. Also today, the Golden Bear, Jack Nicklaus, meeting with the media, and a special moment when he recognized our sports director, Paul Moose Spahn. Paul will retire in August after 47 years of service here at 10 TV. Moose has done it all, covered it all over his career, including every round of every single Memorial Tournament dating back to 1976.
How can we let you go? Huh? You've covered every Memorial Tournament. You've been a great friend to all of us here. We appreciate it, and we thank you for all your years of service and friendship. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Congrats, Moose. You're going to be missed. Buckeye basketball news, forward Caleb Wesson, who was testing the waters when it comes to the NBA draft, has decided to return to college and will be back for his junior season at Ohio State. National holidays: National Hamburger Day, National Slug Day, National Brisket Day, and of course it is National Moose Day. And you know what? We're going to throw Tiger in it behind me. Tiger Woods here at the course getting some practice in. We got to take a break. More news when we return.
Severe thunderstorm watch in areas just to our north through 8 o'clock tonight. A lot of storms up there, not too much severe at the moment. We'll be monitoring it for you throughout the course of the evening.
All right, thank you, Mike. And with that, thanks for joining us tonight. The CBS Evening News is up next.
Have a great evening, everyone. Take care.